I'd like to welcome to the stage Sabine VanderLinden and Ori Hanani, and our very own Tudor Stanciu, Startups Community Manager at How to Web. Take it away, Tudor.
Okay, so Insurtech is a very, very niche, so to say, market at this point. But I've seen a lot of press recently, a lot of partnerships between startups and companies. You're working with startups in the Startup Bootcamp Insurtech Accelerator. You're partnering with acceleration programs and trying to work with startups and getting their technology implemented in your company. What's the status of tech disruption in this insurance market? Where is technology? How well is technology implemented in the insurance market at the moment?
Shall I start? Okay. So when you look at Insurtech, the market is around now 4.74 billion in size. Since 2010, there were a lot of investors investing in the market. So it's growing. It's still small compared to fintech, which represent around 19 billion, but it's growing. And just at the beginning of this year, there have been around 126 deals representing 1.4 billion investment in Insurtech startups. So when you look at the tech, so I run Startup Bootcamp Insurtech, so one of the leading Insurtech program around the world. And Hori here spent a lot of time with me as well at the bootcamp, because Hori partnered with my program, but other programs as well, to actually see what is going on in the Insurtech market. So what we see from a tech viewpoint is there are a lot of different themes which are going to affect the insurance market, because the market has not done much for many years. I would say, there are a lot of articles saying that insurance is ripe for disruption. And some of the things we see starting entering the market would include cybersecurity. We've seen a lot of drones, propositions, a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning, digital assistants. We are seeing as well companies using digital platforms to literally transform the way insurance is sold, how we manage risks, and how we actually identify customers, the right customers for different products. We see products changing. They are becoming a little bit more specialized, and you see more fun products like, you can get reimbursed for your travel insurance by just having a flight being delayed. But what I think is going to happen is all this digital stuff happening and all these great new people like you coming to the market is forcing insurance companies to look at the market slightly differently, and designing and working with startups to actually make them a little bit newer and more interesting to work with.
Well, actually, a year and a half ago, a little bit more than that, when we joined the Startup Bootcamp, nobody knew what Insurtech was. It was a completely new concept. Everybody said, okay, it's nice, take off of fintech. But I think that in the last year and a half, it became massive. Like Sabine mentioned, there's still a long way to go before this resembles what fintech is showing today. But if it follows the trend, it's more or less the same amount of investments that fintech had in 2012. So pretty soon we can expect a hike going up. And I think from our side as insurance companies, and Admiral Group is one of the largest motor insurers in the UK, we saw fintech. We saw what fintech did to the traditional incumbents in the industry. And when you see that, you're saying, okay, I want to be involved. I want to see what's going on. And this is sort of a circle that feeds itself. Because the more insurance companies are getting involved, the more interest it creates in the market. More companies are now starting to think, okay, what can I do for insurance? But also startups that beforehand did something that never thought would be applicable to insurance, figure out there's actually really good use cases for the same technology they developed for fintech or for risk, whatever. that could be implemented as well in insurance. So the technology is not just, you know, completely things out of the blue that didn't exist before. In many times we see the same technologies that were used for fintech and other areas being implemented as well in with different use cases in insurance.
Can you share with us 2 or 3 examples of products? So we put everything in context and be really applicable for the people in the crowd. 2 or 3 products you've seen lately in this area of Insurtech that caught your attention, or 2 or 3 market trends of areas in Insurtech that are where people are trying to build products, problems haven't been yet particularly well solved. So people can understand exactly where's the market at the moment.
I think really the number of areas in innovation that impact Insurtech, like Sabine mentioned briefly, is enormous. I think that probably a couple of the biggest is smarter utilization of AI throughout the whole mechanism of an insurance company. Since starting with customer acquisition, all the way to customer servicing, all the way to claims handling, AI could play a significant role in each one of those parts. And we're seeing a lot of companies trying to enable better usage or change the traditional way insurance companies used to do claims, used to do sales, etc., involving technology based on AI. The second example, I think, is showing enormous value is data, more data sources, better utilization of data, better predictive analytics. Those are things that, again, insurance companies realize they need to know how to handle that data better, and they need to understand how to utilize new sources of data that didn't exist a few years ago. And this is an enormous opportunity because in insurance we're in the game of assessing risk. That's our game. We need to assess risk. We need to put a price on risk, and the more data we have, the better risk prediction we can do. So obviously for us it's a natural, but some insurance companies are waking up a bit late for that and realizing, okay, we need to understand what are we going to do with all this data.
So I think, I mean, when you look at back at history, technically the first Insurtech startup, when Insurtech was not yet coined, is the Climate Corporation. So the Climate Corporation design complex algorithm which allows them to predict weather patterns, drought, high water flood, and by connected to Google, being able to understand what was going on around the world. And we thought they would be bought by a big insurance company, they'd be bought by Monsanto. But what you see there, it was the early stage of prediction of how you can manage precision farming, agriculture, by leveraging data. Then you've seen companies like Zenefits that Sean mentioned, going to the industry freemium model and then monetizing for healthcare products. And the latest startup we've seen is Lemonade, which for us in insurance is, and we need to see how the model will work. Lemonade launched three weeks ago. It's what we call an insurance carrier, so it's a fully insurance company, not just a broker. And what they have done is a peer-to-peer proposition, selling small items using chatbot and AI to actually engage in a much more easier way with the consumer. So what we are seeing, I guess, is a new way of engaging the customer. When we look at all the startups coming through our bootcamp, 60% of any proposition is focused on that customer engagement. But then we also see the merger of different industry. So some of the startups I'm seeing knocking on our doors will be doing PropTech and InsurTech. So, trying to reinvent the rental industry, and then, by the way, adding the insurance component to their proposition. So it end up being an end-to-end proposition. So if you're doing PropTech, legal tech, looking at other industries, you may actually have the ability to monetize in insurance, which is an interesting thing to do because insurance has been really siloed, just doing insurance, but now we want engagements. So if I buy a TV, I want to buy my TV with my insurance. If I rent a flat or buy a house, I want the insurance company to sit behind.
Basically, it's really connected with a lot of the areas in which startups are working, and
we see more and more of those.
Expand your
which
vision.
is not just insurance; it's looking at a series of engagement model, which, by the way, include insurance as well.
Fintech is usually associated with a lot of obstacles, regulatory, and founders are really, especially in emerging markets in fintech, are thinking, okay, I have a lot of obstacles, a lot of laws I have to cover, a lot of things I have to be careful of, rather than building your traditional B2C or your traditional mobile app. Is it the same in Insurtech? And if it is the same, how do you counteract this obstacle, if it's an obstacle?
So I will respond from an accelerator viewpoint. So yes, I would say that any startup coming to the bootcamp, we have to look at whether they understand the regulation. So, if you become a tech company, I guess regulation become less important, but you have different business model in insurance. You may become an agent, so a broker, and you are regulated in the way you sell products, or you want to become an underwriter. Like Ori, you want to underwrite and pay claims, and you have to be regulated as well. What we've seen, so exactly the same technically as fintech, but what we've seen with the regulators, at least in the UK, is that they want to foster innovation, and they spend time with us doing the accelerator to work with the startups to make sure that they are looking at the customer first. I think if you look at customer first, you are less likely of making mistake and not being regulatory compliant. And so they have put together this project called Project Innovate, where they invite startups to use their sandbox and use their data to validate their propositions. But also they are coming along and having those conversations to actually explain the difference and the risks of looking at different business models if they want to enter the insurance market.
The regulation is an issue. It's always an issue. You can't just set up an insurance company. Obviously, it's a lot of things that needs to be taken into account. That's why the regulator steps in and takes a part. But I think we're seeing that the vast majority of startups in this area are more enablers. They're more looking to take a part of the insurance chain and improve that specific part. And for that, in those scenarios, we, the insurance companies, the regulated entities, become sort of their customers. We buy their services from them, and for that, regulation is not that significant because we will direct them in the way that is compliant with the law. However, some companies try to attack or disrupt the insurance industry in its models, so create a new broker or a new insurance underwriter, and that's a big thing when it comes to regulation, because you can finish everything, you can have great technology, amazing UI, everything's great, and then you knock on the regulator's door and here's a list of 300 things that you need to prepare before I give you the license. And that is quite a blocker. And Sabine is completely right. We are seeing that the regulator is facing more towards the entrepreneurs and the startups. But companies that want to become underwriters and take on the risks themselves will face more stricter regulation.
An additional point, actually, on what Ori said around the regulators. Actually, when you look at Lemonade, they launched three weeks ago. It took them a year to get their license, right? And they only license in one state, which is New York, where they can underwrite. And they didn't know whether they would get that license. So, it can be painful, and so you need the capital. And what they did is they raised 18 million to be able to wait and build their business and see whether the regulators who said, okay, but it took some time for them to get that license.
This is exactly why, I'm not saying it because I'm in an insurance company, but this is why we encourage a lot of startups in innovation to seek how they can partner with the incumbents rather than try to challenge them or become a self-standing underwriting. Because you can you can have innovation that resides within the umbrella, the underwriting umbrella of an existing insurer or reinsurer, which we see quite a lot. So it's definitely not a blocker. If there is a good idea, you can go out to market with it. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to become your own insurance company.
So you're coming from established markets, or so to say, market leaders, although we don't have a clear leader in terms of Insurtech, because, but what would be your advice for people from Eastern Europe, from Central and Eastern Europe, trying to work on Insurtech products, how they should approach this challenge, so to say?
Well, I think first it's, when you look at Insurtech, it includes a lot of different verticals. So you have healthcare, you have general insurance, home, travel, car, you also have commercial lines. So it's really understanding, where there's a gap and where there's an opportunity to help the market do things better. Where there's a lot of frictions, leakages, where a relationship could be completely streamlined. That's why when we have startup coming to the bootcamp, we say let's start with your customer discovery, lean startup methodology, and your customer validation to make sure that what you are focusing on is going to make sense for the market. So really being sure that there is a market and we can make money with the idea. Then when we work with the startups. What is important for us is we tend to look for startups which do not really want to disrupt because we are partner-led. They want to innovate, they want to collaborate. And so it's about interacting and introducing them to great brands who actually are willing themselves to innovate and create value with younger businesses and actually help them grow by giving them projects, their first projects, and hopefully helping them drive deal flow and invest in them in the future. So I would say the interesting thing is we always look for the renowned market, Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley, specific place in Europe. And I know there is amazing talent in Eastern Europe. And so I would say to find a way for us to find out about them and to lift hand and send me an email or send over an email and said, here's my offer, do you think it's viable? Because we need and we always are looking for great ideas coming from all around the world. And then we can help and validate them and give advice as to what needs to be done next.
I think many times entrepreneurs don't have the insurance use case in their mind when they're thinking of their idea. And my recommendation to them will be talk to insurance people. I hope it's not too boring to talk to insurance people, but when you talk to insurance people, their experience together with your idea, use cases pop up. And the best example is just this morning. I spent the morning we both did some mentoring sessions, and in almost each and every one of the startups that talked to me, we were able to find what is the right use case for insurance. It's not always clear up front. It sometimes takes a bit of pivoting or a bit digging deeper into. But if you have an idea and you don't know whether or not that could be applicable to insurance, just go and talk to insurance people. Just this is why this ecosystem exists. Why we have accelerators supported by incumbents in the industry. The whole idea is to inspire innovation and get people to come up with those use cases that will help us improve the insurance industry and make it more customer friendly, more efficient. There's endless areas in which the industry could be improved.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, I fell into insurance 18 years ago. We always say we fall into insurance 18 years ago. And then 2 years ago, I decided to go into working with startup. I started with fintech. And then a bit longer than a year, but 18 months ago, I went into insurance. I went back to insurance because I thought innovation, needs to get into insurance, and Insurtech will happen. And that was January 2015. And the interesting thing is when you start looking at what problems insurance companies to solve, things we need to, we need still to buy car insurance. We need to buy travel insurance. We want to buy golf insurance. When you look at some of the things we need to get done, there are exciting ways, using digital technology, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, whatever, which makes insurance really exciting and interesting. like fintech is or retail is. It's just looking at what really the underlying problem is, underwriting model and algorithm to price better, like Airbnb are doing with their pricing tools. These are the same issues which affect insurance. And often young entrepreneurs go for the sexy areas like trading and retail, but actually when we start explaining some of the use case in insurance, oh my God, I didn't know that. Insurance is actually a market which is ready for disruption and has a lot of money which is going to come into it from an investment viewpoint and from insurers wanting to innovate. And so it must not be forgotten.